Hello everyone, my name is Jack and I'll be your host for today. Welcome and thank you for taking part in MDPI's webinar entitled Green and Nature-Based Solutions for Climate Change, Resilient Infrastructure. This is the 10th webinar in the Sustainability series based on a special issue from our journal of the same name. If you're interested in contributing to the topic, do not hesitate to submit your research. Simply check the webinar's webpage for more information. I would like to remind everyone that the webinar today is being recorded and the recording will be made available as soon as possible on the webinar SciForum page. Please note you will have to be logged in order to view the recording. Certificates of attendance will be available upon request. To get yours, please send an email to sustainability.webinar@mdpi.com, including the name and date of the webinar. Thank you. There will be 3 presentations today of 20 minutes each. The presentations are followed by a question time moderated by the chair. If you have any questions for our speakers, please post them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And remember to mention the name of the person to whom you're addressing your question. Today's webinar is chaired by Professor Blanca Antisar from University College London, UK. Professor Antisar is the Director of Consultancy at ISLE and Royal Academy of Engineering Visiting Professor in Environmental Security and Resilience at the University College London, with over 20 years of experience in development of water and wastewater treatment projects globally. Her interests are centered in the development and implementation of new technologies in the context of water security and resource recovery. Thank you, Blanca, for chairing today's webinar. That's it from me. I'll hand over the microphone to our chair. I hope you all enjoy.
Yes, so thank you very much for your presentation, Jack, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are today. My name is Blanca Antisar, and I'm the European Director of Consultancy for ISLE Utilities, a global and independent technology and innovation consultancy company in the water and clean tech sector that brings together technical and commercial specialists to facilitate relationships and accelerate the market uptake of innovative technologies. Welcome to our webinar on green and nature-based solutions for climate change, a resilient infrastructure. I'm delighted to be here with you today. For the last 2 decades, water security and climate resilient infrastructure have been in the spotlight as key concepts for sustainable development. Almost 2/3 of cities around the world believe that climate change will negatively affect their water resilience. Therefore, infrastructure will be affected by the physical impacts of climate variability and change, but will also play an essential role in building resilience to those impacts. Extreme events illustrate the extent of this potential exposure. Water and waste companies and administrations are under increasing pressure to invest in new ways to meet new demands due to population growth, climate change, and tightening environmental standards. Many companies are concerned about business risks related to water supplies. So the COVID-19 pandemic has caused profound changes in the way we live and work, and digitalization is playing an important role globally in the water and waste sectors and beyond, boosting knowledge sharing and collaboration to address these challenges. Against the backdrop of growing global urbanization and climate change and foreseen challenges such as those we have recently seen with the COVID-19 pandemic, this webinar focuses on innovative initiatives to address climate resilient infrastructure and water resilience, as well as the socioeconomic factors influencing vulnerability to climate change and the way that adoption and replication of green and nature-based solutions for climate change, resilient infrastructure, and water security. The aim of the webinar is to provide evidence of the opportunities that blue-green infrastructures and ecosystem-based approaches bring towards climate resilient infrastructure and water security. We have here today 3 prominent keynote speakers who will talk about the antecedents of the LIFE Green Adapt project, co-funded with the contribution of the LIFE program of the European Union under the grant agreement number LIFE 20, that will be used as a case study. The technology advances, global experiences, as well as barriers and enablers to accelerate adoption and replication of innovation. Therefore, the following speakers will be first, Ms. Luz Herrero, who is the coordinator of this project, and she is also based at the Environment Unit and at AMN in Spain. Professor Dr. Jordi Morató, who is a professor Cátedra UNESCO of Sustainability at the Universitat Politécnica de Catalunya in Spain. Dr. Carlos Arias, who is senior researcher at the Department of Bioscience at Aarhus University in Denmark. This webinar as well will be moderated by my colleague, Dr. Elvira Serra, Senior Technology Consultant at iUtility in the United Kingdom. So with this said, our first speaker, Ms. Luz Herrero, who will focus on how the Life Green Adapt project addresses resilience, climate change, and infrastructure, providing an overview of the project and antecedents, will be our first speaker. Her presentation will be followed by Professor Jordi Morató, who will present various or previous global experiences, including social and economic aspects. And then we'll have Dr. Carlos Arias, who will present the barriers and enablers to ensure adoption and replication, including cultural barriers. The presentation of the keynote speakers will be followed by a panel discussion and questions and answers session moderated by Elvira Serra. Finally, I will close this session. So without further ado, I welcome Luz Herrero to be our first keynote speaker.
Thank you, Blanca, for your kind presentation. And I would like to thank all the people here attending to this webinar. And I hope this webinar is interesting to you. We are today to talk about a little bit of a Life Green Adapt project. This is a live project in the program of climate change adaptation. It started last year at the month of July, and it will end at the end of 2024. It has a total project budget of about 3 million euros and a European Union financial contribution about 1.5 million. This project has been funded under the work area Resilience of infrastructure, including application of blue and green infrastructure and ecosystem-based approaches to adaptation. We are all aware that the climate change is a problem, and we have a climate emergency across the world, and landfills and infrastructure utilities are not out of these problems. Landfills can remain operational for over 140 years, even after care and restoration periods. And this is in a context of climate change that could be a problem, and a very important problem, because they are affected by the extreme weather events like droughts or floods or heat waves, or even they have pressure on resource availability, for example, on water. And these extreme events can cause adverse effects on landfills, like the increase of landfill leaches that are currently also a problem to treat, fires, and also landslides that can cause problems to the nearby areas and also the population around the landfills. We can think that it is, here we have some examples of this climate problem, like for example, fires that can occur in the landfills. Recently, in spring this year, due to extreme temperature heat waves in Delhi in India, over 40 degrees centigrade, a landfill has been burning for several weeks. It has also strong effects on the population surrounding the area because of the pollution caused by the gases that has been emitted and so on. We can think that these kind of things only happen in countries where there are not so many control on the landfills or monitoring, but it also happened in Spain in May 2016, and also due a high temperature heat wave, a tire landfill was burning also during several weeks. What about the floods and landslides? We have here also two examples about it. In Asunción, Paraguay, in July 2014, an episode of extreme rainfall caused floods in a river nearby a landfill. So as you can see in the picture, a lot of garbage and a lot of waste reach the water, causing again severe effects on the quality of the water in the river and the surrounding area. Also in Zaldivar in Spain in February 2020, a hazardous waste landfill had some landslides and 2 persons died during this landslide. And it was really difficult to recover them. So this is something that we know it could get worse because of the climate change, because the climate change is here. That's why the consortium thought that it could be a good opportunity to increase the resilience of the European waste infrastructures. Well, not only the European ones, but this could be replicated in other areas. It could be a good opportunity to increase the resilience using and demonstrating that blue and green infrastructures and ecosystem-based approaches that could have are good to solve these kind of problems. What are briefly what we consider nature-based solutions? Nature-based solutions could be technologies that are mimicking what is happening in the nature, but they are monitored and controlled in a way that we can design them to solve these kind of problems, but always taking care of the way they are the nature is solution the problems. They also have they also have a lot of advantages because they improve the human well-being and also the biodiversity in the areas where they are applied, and they use ecosystem-based approaches and also improve the way that the society is relating with nature and also with technology. Life Green Adapt will demonstrate that this kind of technologies could help to manage flash and flooding and runoff caused by the heavy rainfall episodes, and also to prevent fires and explosions caused by droughts and unusual heat waves. The objectives of the project are not only aiming technology aspects, like you can see in the slide, but the project also want to address governance in the area where the landfills are located, and try to engage all the stakeholders that could be affected by this kind of technologies and measures that we are proposing, and also to provide some tools for training and help other facilities to use this kind of solutions that we are demonstrating in the project. The main outcomes are related to increasing the landfill lifespan in a context of climate change up to 50%, and also to increase on the safe, increase the availability of water, and also the quality of the water that is going to be treated during the project, and also to use the waste that the landfill is treating in a completely different way to produce technosoils that could be also be used to improve the resilience of the landfill, as we can see in a couple of slides. It also aims to save some money for the treatment cost, and also to diminish the amount of CO2 that is that could reach the atmosphere. Here you can see here you can see the consortium that is working on the project. There are several partners with different expertise that are complementary. IMEN Technology Center is coordinating the project, and Chilo Galicia is the owner of the landfill and where the demo case is located, as you can see in the photograph in the screen. Global Factor is a company in charge of the risk vulnerability assessment on the project. University Polytechnic of Catalonia, who will speak later, will be in charge of all the life cycle assessment and economic and social for the actions to be taken in the project. Or Aarhus University, that will speak also later, will be in charge of the design of the blue technologies. Limnos as well is a company with expertise in this field as well, and ILE will be in charge of all the business and replicability and dissemination activities of the project. Or as I mentioned before, landfill is infrastructures need to anticipate and assess the vulnerability and risk to adapt to climate variations and be resilient in the future if they because they are having a long lifespan. Our demo case is located in the northwest part of Spain. Let's see here in the corner, in the north of Spain. So it means that this area is very rainy during the whole year. It's the part of Spain, is the green part of Spain, so it's rainy the whole year. But due to climate change, during the trends in the temperature in the previous years are changing, and now the summers are hot and dry, and they have episodes of high temperature during the summer, causing as well periods of drought. Xiloga Landfill, who is the owner of this landfill, Xiloga is the company, has been operational since 1999, and it has 2 cells. One of them has been closed in 2010, and the other one, who is the bigger one, is in the period of restoration. The concept for the project is summarized here in this nice infographics. We will use blue and green infrastructures. The blue ones are related to the water flows, and the green are related to the application of biotechnosoils. In the blue line, we will treat landfill leachate with different kinds of nature-based solutions like floating treatment wetlands, and using plants to using floating structures for plants, aerated vertical flow treatment wetlands. And the aim is to have water fitted for reuse in the landfill. And on the other flow that we are going to treat is the stormwater or runoff that is now accumulated in a stormwater pond, and we will use to be sure that they are that the effluent is in line with the thresholds that we have in the regulation. Electroactive biofilm-based treatment wetlands. Here's some. I think that to understand what we are doing, it's better to see some pictures and videos of what is happening currently at the landfill. I'm going to focus on the biotechnosoil application because my colleagues are going to explain and are going to focus more on the blue infrastructures. What is biotechnosoil? It's a mixture of organic and mineral waste that has been going through a maturation process, and it has similar properties to soil. Here you can see this video while I'm going to take out the noise. It's very noisy. And how we have used these stockpiles of biotechnosoil produced during a long period. It is the historical stockpiles that the landfill has, and they are sieving and shredding to have a particular size for the biotechnosoil in a previous stage to apply it on the landfill. Okay, let's see if we can move. This is the situation before the application of the biotechnosoils. Here you can see the waste spread all over the landfill. During the process, you can see here this black layer of biotechnosoils on top of the waste. And this is how it looks now. Siloa has planted here a lot of seeds of ryegrass and other varieties and other species. And during the they started with the works to spread the biotechnosoil last summer, but currently everything has grown, and this is how it looks like right now. One of the advantages of using these biotechnosoils or nature-based solutions is their increase the biodiversity. We took these photographs during this week, at the beginning of this week, and you can see how spring has arrived to the landfill. And also we have this kind of flowers that are species that are growing in the surrounding area. So you hardly notice that there is something here below these beautiful flowers. So that's all on my side. Thank you for your attention, and I'm waiting for all your questions and doubts after the other presentations. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Luz. So now Jordi Morató will be our next speaker.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jordi Morató, the director of the UNESCO Chair on Sustainability at Polytechnical University of Catalonia. I want to talk about some aspects related to more socio-technical, cultural and economic aspects related to Green Adapt and other related projects. And as Luz talked before, during last years, we live in a health emergency due to COVID-19, but it's obvious that we are in that climate emergency. This is a really important article published in 2020 about the future of the human climate niche, where some of the most important climatology people say that the scenario in 50 years could be a change from our human climate niche from 11 to 15 degrees Celsius to a more than 29. This incredible high temperature nowadays is only in that black spots in the Sahara. No? Then it's obvious that we are experiencing an increase of temperature during recent years, and that the scenario is that this increasing will be really higher and will affect especially the south of the planet. No? Then the average annual impact from water problems is really high, and we have the extreme climate events related to flooding and drought that can affect many people. These are the last data that we have from the UNESCO Water Division. In 1 year, we have more than 100 million people affected by flooding, and more or less half, 55 million people affected by drought. And you can see in blue the economic damage, more than 30 billion cost for all the processes of flooding, and more than 5 billion of economic damage produced by drought. And at the same time, near 800,000 people dies every year because of the water-related diseases. No? Then we have important problems because of climate change. At the same time, we have a biodiversity crisis. We cannot forget, and our economic negative impact on biodiversity directly affects us and affects our human well-being, because the reduction of biodiversity is directly related to the reduction of ecosystem services that are key aspects for our human well-being. No? Then it's obvious that our economic trends are directly and negatively affecting us, and we have to rethink many of the things and processes that we are doing, and that we have to adapt to climate. And Green Adapt is one project that is working on that. But some thinking about if we can adapt to climate change. One of the work from UNESCO directly is that we can learn a lot from the past, because humans have historically able to adapt to extreme conditions. We have a lot of examples here, some living conditions in the arid or semi-arid areas like in Morocco, and the development of the built environment here in that places, or the typical yard, the patio, with like an example of rainwater collection, infiltration. Then local population have been coexisting during centuries with extreme conditions, and we have to learn a lot. No? Therefore, vulnerability depends obviously about on biophysical vulnerability because of the geographic context, but most important of that is the social vulnerability, that it directly depends on that different scientists talk about the social fabric, that is directly related to the experience of community during centuries, the experience to react to different threats, and that capacity to confront that threats and to recover, to adapt, and finally to achieve higher resilience. Therefore, we have a lot to learn from the past, and today we are understanding that we are trying to develop that socio-ecological, technical, and cultural systems that includes our intangible heritage developed during centuries, that that collect the community experience in front of the adaptation to climate. But obviously we have an international agenda for sustainability for transformation. We have three main axes about the Sustainable Development Goals, the urban agenda, and the climate agreement, climate change agreement in Paris. But Europe adds two more axes, two important axes related to circular economy and to the strategy related to ecosystem services and the use of nature-based solutions. And Luz explains before the use of nature-based solutions, like really important solutions designed to address the societal challenges that we have today, effective, and that provide at the same time economical, social, and environmental benefits. And we work not only in Europe, we work, for example, in Colombia, in Cauca, in a project during 3 years, trying to develop some eco-technological interventions in 9 municipalities in order to develop early alerts for water supply systems, but at the same time to provide real solutions for field scale at local and regional scale, like that infiltration cells, buffer strips, and different nature-based solutions that can be really good for flooding control, for erosion prevention, for runoff management, and for aquifer research, and especially in order to provide solutions that can be applied in a participatory approach and in rural areas that can directly benefit the water supply for the urban areas. No? Then there are a lot of examples of nature-based solutions developed in rural areas, but another question is if we can develop that nature-based solution in cities. And we have here a web search for UNESCO Water Division, and we tried to find all the research developed during the last 40 years in urban water, and we find curiously that after 2015 we find two concepts that increase really in a huge amount the research from different parts of the world. The two concepts are sponge city and water-sensitive urban design. Therefore, water-sensitive urban design, that approach that we can change that urban water balance of the most common cities with really reduced infiltration, with really reduced evapotranspiration because we do not have vegetation. We can change with water-sensitive urban design using treatment wetlands, using different nature-based solutions in order to recover a more natural water balance. No? We have different examples of that multifunctional nature-based solutions that can be developed in really small areas, in areas near parking, that can be used for flooding control and for flooding prevention. And there are different successful examples of nature-based solutions, even in Latin America, that we collaborate in some of that nature-based solutions using bioengineering, using buffer sieves and other solutions. No? And another final challenge related to nature-based solutions are the quadruple nexus, how we can develop the same amount of food without with less water, less energy, and without a negative impact on ecosystem. This is a quadruple nexus that we have a project now that we are beginning in the Mediterranean area, but in a society many years ago, 400 years before Christ, in Colombia, developed the hydraulic Zenu system. That is an incredible example of a Zenu, a quadruple nexus system. This is the biggest hydraulic system that we know. We know that more than 500,000 hectares. It's a multifunctional system, and it's based on turn the excess of water produced by flooding to an advantage to maintain crops during rainy and dry season. Today, we lost that knowledge, and during the rainy season, all our fields are flooded, and during the dry season, we cannot maintain agriculture because we do not have enough water content on our soil. Then we have to learn a lot from our past. We say that ancestral hydrotechnologies are basic for future rescue. And we have one example in Colombia, again, the one association of producers, fishermen, and farmers develop a replicate of that Zenu system, of that amphibian culture, and they have now an incredible agroecology production for more than 100 families. Well, then the other big approach is the circular economy. You know that circular economy is a regenerative economy. Most people understand that in circular economy we design with a zero waste, and that obviously we try to maintain resources in use. But don't forget that we have the technical cycle in blue in the right, but you should remember that we have, you should to regenerate natural systems in the biological cycle. No? In Green Adapt, we'll develop a circular economy analysis related to the waste and water sector. We link that with the Green Deal because in Europe, we have a lot of investment in the areas related to the circular economy. And obviously, we develop a new approach of the circular water management with developing 6 key components for a new value chain for that water circular economy, including the reliable and resilient water systems, going from linear to circular business model, developing a sustainable water use, including water efficiency, water reuse, obviously working on healthy water resources, including the product recovery and recycling, working in the 4th approach around how we can improve the competitive of water industry, especially around forming partnerships in order to improve the value and the impact of that in that sector. And finally, including that approach in cities, in thriving cities, including the water sensitive urban design. And the last one is including the social and economic inclusion in the water sector. Finally, how we can go from the directly to act for transformation. We need a methodology to accelerate transformation, and we think that it's basic to work in the community-based interventions, and to achieve a multi-level governance is basic to accelerate the transformation. In that sense, we again are working in that roadmap for a transition from a sustainable company to a transformation of the entire sector, to collaboration in different value chains that are related. This is not easy. This requires really important actions that are coming directly from private sector, but also from the administrations. Then if we want to achieve that multi-level governance, we need that really important public and private cooperation. We need political, financial, and infrastructural support from administration, and we need also a cross-sectorial collaboration from different stakeholders, not only water, waste, and sectors and other related. And some examples of our community empowerment that we are developing and in most of our projects in Latin America, trying to improve that participative interventions using co-design since the start of the project, and developing pilot projects like the example of Green Adapt, developing a community of practices, like, for example, here, the transformation of the old landfill in Moravia, in Medellin, more than 1.5 tons of waste. You can see here the soil, not soil, different plastic and different waste, and how with a participative approach with people from the area, we can achieve a really incredible transformation. Well, all of that transformation, just to finish, needs powerful networks of NGOs, universities, and public administrations. And we are working in Natura Network, is a nature-based solutions for urban resilience in the Anthropocene. That is a network of networks that today have more than 30 networks in Africa, Asia Pacific, Europe, North and Latin America. We are members also of the Water Museum Global Network for UNESCO, and we help to develop the RegNet network. Just as a main conclusions of my presentation, just say that the adaptation to climate change requires new strategies, new processes based on nature-based solutions and cultural heritage, and the establishment of that socio-ecological, technical, and cultural system. And we have to adapt to the different contexts in the world that said. No? We have different successful examples from nature-based solutions implemented at different local, regional, and different rural, urban, and in different parts of the world, and we can replicate them. It's basic, the community engagement and empowerment. It's basic to articulate that transformation projects, and the multi-level governance is also really important, but requires extensive collaboration between public administrations and private sector. And finally, networking is also a key aspect. No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jordi. Great presentation, and we're all gladly surprised with all the different projects that you are leading worldwide. And our next speaker is going to be Carlos Arias So Carlos, please, if you can upload your presentation.
First of all, congratulations to Luz, to Jordi, to Elvira, to Blanca for organizing this, and the two previous presenters show great information. Now, barriers and enablers to ensure adoption of replication and cultural barriers. First, I will present where I'm coming from. I am from Aarhus University. This is in Denmark. It's not a very well-known university, but we have done some things that are interesting. So this is Aarhus, where I am. It's the second largest city in the country. It's about 350,000 inhabitants, and is the host of my university, the one I work for. This is the central campus. We have about 38,000 students. We have about 8,000 employees. We're producing about 1,000, well, we have 1,200 PhD students. That means a lot of research. And sorry, 1,800 in 2021. We low in publications about 7,000, and our budget, like everywhere else, is being cut because of COVID and economic constraints. But nevertheless, we still can produce some science. Even though we call Aarhus University, we got the research sites and stations all over the country, including Greenland, where it is of importance because of Arctic research. Biology, that's where I work. My section is biology, and I work with aquatic biology specifically, and we do a lot of research with constructed wetlands and natural-based solutions. This is some of the examples of the sites we have worked before. So once in that, I can show you that we are in contact. We work with about 35 to 40 different countries in the world. And luckily, I have the opportunity to work with most of them. So barriers and enablers. Barriers and enablers are factors that hinder or help process of scaling up pilot systems, technical work, or knowledge transfer that typically based in long-term sustainable systems into decision-making processes. Barriers, well, basically they are factors that constrain the decision maker and the adoption of this new technology that is being developed. Yeah, and on the contrary, enablers are factors that will improve and aid the decision making, and also the establishment of these systems that we are developing, or we want to transfer, or we want to install in mostly what happens is from developed countries to developing countries. They can be these barriers and enablers, both can be technical, infrastructural, informational, financial, social, cultural, knowledge base, or capacity related. Another definition that is important is maybe the technology transfer, which is the transfer of new technologies from the originator, that's the person that has developed this knowledge, to a secondary user. It would be the receiver of this knowledge. And like I mentioned before, most of the time it happens from developed to developing countries. And the idea is to boost the economies and to improve life quality. And of course, in these cases, the developing country, first of all, the developed country or the university or the one that is developing this new knowledge, once he must be willing to share it, and also the receiving partner in the country or university or company should have the will to receive this knowledge. The process is another definition of technology transfer, that is the process of conveying, sharing results stemming from scientific and technological research to a marketplace or to a wider society, along with the societal skills, procedures, and is such an intrinsic part of technological innovation process. So in order to improve, we have to develop new things, and most of the time they don't come from the university itself or the company itself, but it can be from other place. So this technology transfer, it's a circle. It's always It starts with discovery, it goes to disclosure, evaluation, intellectual property protection, marketing, licenses, the product development, and then public use and financial returns. But this is never ending, because all these technological systems that are being developed, they can always be improved. So this cycle goes on and on and on. But there is always some factors that will affect the development or will limit this development. So we have some enabling conditions, and the idea is that we have enabling conditions, we have goals and technology conditions. So we have a technology transfer environment, and that means that we must have the innovation systems. We we should have the knowledge or the capacity to develop these conditions, and also the financial means. Any type of technology development implies that they must be supported by financial means. In technological conditions, well, we have some of the properties of the technology include the complexity. And of course, if we are investing in some technology development, the idea is that we want to have some economical development potential. That means it's not for free. We always look for a goal, even though at universities like our case, we don't pursue a profit, but any type of technology development that is going to be adopted by a company or an SME or even a country looks for an economical profit. So of course, or it can not only be economic, but also environmental, but there's always a profit. So in this what do you call it, these two components, what we want to do, at least in the field we work, like Life Green Adapt, is to make sure we get some profit from climate change mitigation, and we do at the same time some sustainable development. So we have, in terms of knowledge, we have 3 steps, which are going to be knowledge creation, we have knowledge sharing, and then knowledge transfer. So enablers for a knowledge creation is that we must have qualified and experienced staff. One advantage is, or one of the conditions is that we should have access to literature, state of the art, updated information of what is the state of the art of the topic we're developing, that we want to improve. In our case, is landfills and wastewater. And one issue that sometimes is overlooked is the fact of incentives. For us at university, for us is really cool to publish, but if you take a company, the type of incentives most of the time would include economic incentives or this type of stuff. Barriers, well, lack of policies, lack of vision, lack of resources, limited access to information, heavy workload, few multidisciplinary personnel, and no access to grants. So again, developing knowledge, creating knowledge costs money. Knowledge sharing, well, without a doubt, IT infrastructure, connectivity, internet, emails, internet, and this type of new technologies are a must. And some of the barriers are lack of sharing knowledge culture. That means I know something, and I will not let my mate and my colleagues, even in the same section, to know what I'm doing. I mean, this is unfortunately very common, especially in developing countries, as well as what I have experienced in when I work in less developed countries like Denmark, is that they don't want to share the knowledge to colleagues, for example, because there is competitive behavior, because there is fear that they're going to overtake over my knowledge and exploit it, and of course individualism. Another thing that creates a barrier is the frequent leadership changes. Knowledge transfer incentives, they can be in terms of financial, consultancy, promotions, and also further education. And the barriers would include a weak research culture and lack of incentives. If we think in terms of issues, we can divide this into technical issues, political issues, managerial, environmental, and economic issues. Technical issues enablers is one has a very supportive infrastructure to do research that is encouraged by your company, your university, or even the country, that would improve the chances of having some technical developments. Barriers, lack of land. I mean, when I say land, I mean is surface area to, for example, develop natural-based solutions where land is required to do this development. Also, lack of locally available technology. If we lack of pumps or we lack of access to software, this will hinder the development of technical the development of technical issues, and of course lack of infrastructure. But of course, political at the government level is also very important. Jordi just showed us that the idea is to grow and have a bigger impact for any type of development we want to make, and for this case, governmental support is very important. Also, centralized responsibility, and also the fact that proper legislation. It's very common that we come to to see, for instance, in the case of water discharges, and some countries they just copy the limits from other countries, and they will not fit the national conditions. But that's something that is really difficult to address, because most of the time these limits are set by laws, and changing laws is something that is very difficult. Barriers for political support. Qualified decision makers, that is true for any type of industry or where you produce any type of waste. Sometimes the decision makers have no access to updated training, and are actually afraid of deciding or accepting a new technology that they don't know, they're not aware of, and they ignore about it. So it's important that decision makers are updated, but of course that is something that is sometimes difficult. Fragmented regulation or law, political stability, when you have countries that are changing their government and are not stable in terms of government, that affects the innovation and using new technologies. Of course, lack of governmental support. Sometimes the governments are not interested in the technology that is being brought. And also the absence of privatization schemes. That means they do not support new industry. And we have to admit that, yes, new technologies are accepted, but they become supported because there is the possibility of earning or introducing this into a way that can profit and create employment and can be exploited economically. In terms of management, it is important that the private sector is involved, and this is it's relates exactly with what I just said, with the absence of privatization schemes. There must be a national coherent strategy about the establishment of new technologies, and must be also the capacity from the government to establish the infrastructure needed for having this new technology. In terms of management, the barriers include lack of capacity building, poor planning, lack of understanding the current legislation, high cost, lack of incentives for investment of industrial creation. And in terms of environmental, well, it is important that is support for the environmental improvement, the barriers, anything that we want does for the environment is positive. So barriers, they are not considered barriers here. Economic, of course, sufficient funding, and barriers include insufficient funding, lack of structural tariffs, for instance, for water management or for waste disposal or roads. Most of the time, well, the nation must have structural tariffs for the activities that are going to be performed. The fact that the subsidized resources also affects the transfer of technology and knowledge, or the establishment of new and innovative technology, right? Because if one uses the old, old technology, but is funded and is supported by the government, there is no incentives to go for new technology that can, of course, improve the environment. But since it's cheaper to have the old technology, no new and innovative technology is established. And of course, if there is no support for SMEs to start new endeavors, it's also would affect the establishment of new technology. So, but in Life Green Adapt, we are interested in merging this development with climate change mitigation. So we think, or at least, the diffusion or replication of these technologies that we're developing in Life Green Adapt will improve climate change by mitigating and using new blue-green technology we know it now that they are appropriate technologies because they have the capacity to reach the limits of discharge in the case of water, or is proper for waste management, but they become indispensable to mitigate climate change. And this using of sustainable technology, it's also fostering economic growth. That means it becomes an asset to not only to the environment, but also to protect natural resources and to improve the well-being of the population. So in order to improve this technology transfer and the establishment of these new technologies elsewhere, it is important to have information that is available. And also this information must include the potential of economical and environmental achievements from other places, so it can be transferred and applied for the receiving country or company in less developed countries, for example. This, whatever is done as a first step, once it's established, the dissemination of results at national level will increase the establishment of the technology. It would definitely be replicated because it's being seen as a success story. Improvements on environmental regulation will contribute to encourage the adoption of these technologies, for instance, for water reclamation and reuse. And long-term targets of water reuse and reclamation should be encouraged by the authorities. And I'm focusing on water reuse and reclamation because this is what we're also doing in Life Green Adapt. And sharing knowledge of failures and successful factors between the local and the governmental agency will expand the knowledge base and increase the potential of adoption of the technology transfer. Notice that I write failures. The fact that we disseminate or we share the knowledge of the stuff that didn't work is maybe more important than the successful stories. Failures, if we share, we find the reason why it failed, that means it can be corrected. Most of these technologies that are being established, that being transferred, are developed in conditions that are not the same, for instance, for tropical countries. It is very common, for instance, in the case of constructed wetlands, that all the data that is gathered is in Northern Hemisphere, and they are directly transferred to tropical countries and basically copied. But they don't take into account the climatic conditions, the rate at what bacteria works, the plants that are in the receiving country. So failures are very important to share, right? Even though they might, persons, most of us don't like to share the failures, but it is actually very important. I'm going to take 10 minutes to show an experience that we had in Thailand. Back in about 10 years ago, there was a tsunami, and there was this island that was mostly destroyed because of the tsunami. It was very important. Koh Phi Phi is the name of the island. You have an image of how it looked before the tsunami, and now you have an image of how it looked after the tsunami. The wave came 4-6 times, destroyed the entire city, and killed a whole bunch of people. Aarhus University and Danida financed the development of a wastewater treatment plant for this island that had no water. It's in the middle of the sea. And the idea was to treat the wastewater for the population as well as a reuse of the water. So this is how the island looked after the tsunami. And then, of course, this is a community project, so everybody was involved, the mayor, landowners, community leaders, and stakeholders. So we had meetings and decided what to do. Then they assigned a site where we could construct a wetland, actually. So this is the site where the place was right after the tsunami. You can see the size by looking at this excavator in the middle of the hole that was there. So we had, it was 6,000 square meters of available land. It might be integrated to urban conditions. There's no power in this island, and there's no water. So additionally, no smells, they have to look good, low tech, low energy, and all the water should be reused. So there was a design for how we could get the water from the town and then put it up in the site. And then the blue line represents the water that was going to be reused for irrigation and how the water works. We came out with we should have a treatment that really high capacity. So we thought of vertical flow systems, unsaturated, so we can remove BOD and ammonia and let us produce water with really good quality. Several designs came. Of course, we started with something squares. The engineers, we like rectangular structures because they're easy to control in terms of hydraulics and geotechnics, and it's actually much easier than irregular shapes. At the end, at the bottom right, you can see a butterfly, and that's how the system was envisioned at the time of design. Vertical flow, that means unsaturated system, followed by horizontal subsurface flow, free water, and then a disinfection unit. That is this lagoon, this is the body of the butterfly. So water could be distributed in the town for irrigation. Water line, I just mentioned that. And then this is the actual design, 6,000 square meters, vertical flow about 2,300 square meters, horizontal 1,400, and a pond area of 200 square meters for disinfection using solar power. I mean, just UV from the sun. So inauguration day, everybody's happy. Pumping station, everything with solar power. The system started working. And then you can see how it was loaded. It is a vertical, this vertical flow system. This is a siphons to distribute the water. And it looked really nice. So stakeholder informants, performance bonuses, local expert supervision, and it was funded for 5 years from Danita. Some results: BOD is okay, suspended solids is really good. You can see it's irregular, and then the lighter blue is the effluent, so it's complying with the results. And when we look at nitrogen, is not so good. Total P, well, not as good, but it's expected because it's phosphorus. That's a bit complicated. Fecal coliforms, removing 2-3 log units, and then in general it performed relatively well. But after a couple of years, we started seeing some problems. Of course, this is technology that was transferred from Denmark, and it was stated directly and constructed and designed by Danes in this island. After a while, we can see that there were some problems, and then we see some flooding, and this is not going to, it should not happen, because it smells, mosquitoes, malaria, you know, it's actual health risk. So what happened? Well, the design included the use of gravel, but the contractor, he didn't think that the persons that designed the system were clever enough, and plants could not grow in gravel. So he decided to change the design. And so he put soil, that means it's not a filter, water do not flow, and clogged. The sewage in the city grew, so the systems were overloaded. There were no grease traps. The influent was more concentrated, and connections, illegal connections everywhere. So, and of course, after 5 years, this support from Danita was over, and they were responsible for their own system. But the stakeholders, the persons, they just flushed the toilet, and the wastewater was gone, so no problem. Local experts report problems to stakeholders, and the operators, they try to fix it, but they didn't know how to. And of course, you get all kinds of problems with the smell. So here, the problem is lack of a person bringing the solutions, and the municipality, they did not seem to care. So lessons learned. As almost closing my talk, this is a puzzle. We have to make sure all the pieces of the puzzle are fitting. And so here we had a problem with lack of adequate regulations. Authorities were not enforcing the few regulations that existed, and there was not a person that would take control and manage and fix the problems. After the intervention again, this was fixed, and now that's how the system looks again. So now, nobody has talked about what we're installing in Live Clean Adapt. I'm going to take 3 slides to show what we're doing. We're going from a traditional treatment wetlands that are passive and to something that we call intensified systems. So we're installing energetic intensification. In this case, we're using aeration, forced aeration. We're doing also some operational changes. We're using floating systems, and we're also using bioelectric biofilm-based systems. So this is how aerated system works. We have a treatment wetland that is filled with gravel, and we're putting some air on the bottom to increase the water, the oxygen transfer rates, so they can perform better. Regarding electroactive systems, what we're doing is using bacteria that are found in nature, and we are filling these beds with electroconducting material, and these bacteria will release electrons and would increase also the rate at the pollutants are being removed. And we're also using this type of systems, which are floating beds, where plants are set up in islands, artificial islands, but with the selection of specific plants that can remove specific pollutants. And just to round up, we are developing state-of-the-art landfills. This is done by Shiloga. They have plenty of experience. So they're using blue-green infrastructure. They're increasing the stability of these landfills by using technosoils and increasing the retention and filtration capacity of the waters. We're dealing with water. We're improving, optimizing the use of leach and runoff waters. We are improving the quality using a state-of-the-art engineering treatment wetlands. These are the latest in the development, and we're establishing it in this system to increase water quality and resilience of the systems. By also mitigating flooding events by using robust and wetlands with buffer capacity. And we're not staying there, but we're also developing design parameters for the different climate that are now with climate change, most of the geography is becoming vulnerable. And of course, the idea is to disseminate the results for technology transfer to the potential users. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos, for your presentation, and again, all the projects that you have shown around the globe. This is amazing. So now we are going to move into the next part of our webinar. So we are going to be moving into the discussion and questions and answers.
The first question that we have is for Luz, like the first presenter. So we are quite familiar with the use of nature-based solutions in the water sector. But the question is, are these nature-based solutions frequently used in waste management infrastructures as they are going to be used in the Life Green Adapt project?
Thank you for the question, Elvira. To our knowledge, nature-based solutions are starting to be implemented in waste management infrastructures. At least there have been a few research projects related with that, but also only for the application of these technologies to the leachate or runoff. But for example, the application of green technologies like technosoils is quite new. So I think this project will summarize green and also blue technologies applied in a holistic way to a landfill and a waste infrastructure. So this could be at a demo scale. So, and they will be operated during almost 2 years. So we will have a lot of information on the project that could be useful for the future and also to promote the implementation of this kind of technologies in other waste infrastructures to prevent climate severe adverse effects.
Cool. Thank you for your answer, Luz. So next question is for Jordi, and it's about also your presentation. So which are, in your view, the key issues to accelerate transformation in the waste sector, learning from what we know in the water sector?
Well, this is a big question.
Yeah, I know.
But, because yes, this comes from the circular economy framework, no? And well, we have the luck that here in Europe we have a powerful directives that comes from 2015, and today in 2020 we have the new action about circular economy, and then we have a really powerful range of directives that goes directly to the transformation on circular economy, and that obviously directly affect waste sector. No? But we have a lot of and different actions that finally should go from a radical change in order to achieve that regeneration by design. And then we have to reduce waste. And the objective is that for Europe, we have to reduce landfill at just 10% in 2030. No? Then we have a lot of measures, including the extended producer responsibility, for example, that any country should implement in different sectors in order to transform all the sector. No? But I think the most important challenge is, like in the other sectors, how we achieve that multi-level governance that affect different sectors, because the waste sector is not isolated, and obviously we have different connections and links from industry, from water, and then this is the most important challenge: how we can connect, and some of the responses related to the formation of clusters and that collaboration with and between the public and private. But this transformation will require help from public administrations. These really will be really important.
Yeah, no, and I think that is what we have seen in your presentations, also from Carlos' presentation. You know, is key this collaboration between the public and the private sector to move on and to implement this kind of solutions that they are well known, but not really implemented in the waste sector as well. So yeah, so next question that we have is for Carlos, and it's about also the nature-based solutions and how this can, you know, like how this can improve the environmental quality, and how to achieve discharge limits in the case of the water national regulators. So, Carlos.
Thank you, Dina. Yes, I'm thinking, sometimes I think. Okay, natural-based solutions have come a long way. 25 years ago, at least when I started, the use of natural-based solutions by engineers was looked at as incapability of designing technical systems, right? But it's not so now. We have demonstrated to 20, 25, 30 years, and actually nature has given us the opportunity to realize that is wiser than us. So natural-based solutions are able to produce effluents with the quality that is demanded by the local authorities. But one thing that we have to be aware of is, yes, they're going to improve water quality. That means it's going to be better environment, it's going to be better life quality, but it has to be constructed, designed, and operated by persons that know how to do it. This is something that requires knowledge. This is something that requires experience, and this is something that requires a good establishment, good practices, and also good maintenance and operation. Natural-based solutions are looked many times as something that let nature take control of it, and then everything will be solved. That is not so. These are engineered systems that require design, accurate design. So that means we have to have background of the water quality. We must have the target limits, and we also have to know where we're building this. So it's not something that comes naturally. It's something that is engineered. It has biology, it has engineering, and in many cases, it has to be integrated to the local environment. So this is multidisciplinary, it's a technical system, but it will it will help. It will improve water quality. So just my message here is let experts do the natural-based solutions, not anybody that feels like he can.
Thank you, Carlos. So we have a question from Sadar, and it's a question to all of you. And the question is, what are the most common cause or factors leading to failure of projects in climate change mitigation? So maybe, I don't know who wants to start with that, with the answer to that.
We let ladies start, so loose.
Yeah, but I think that one of the best that the answer came from the previous answer of Carlos. In the case of the application of nature-based solutions, as he remarked, it is important that people who know how it works and how to design and how to maintain and how to operate will be the ones in charge of doing this kind of implementation. So that's key for the successful implementation of these projects. He also mentioned in his presentation the lesson learned from the project in Thailand. So I think this is something that we should take also into account, that what is going to happen when after a long period, then you need to train people to know how to operate them, to maintain them, and try to get all the stakeholders involved after the implementation. So this is key as well.
Gracias, Luz. Carlos, Jordi, do you want to add anything?
Perhaps I think one of the most important things is the maintenance at long range, no? Because you can make an investment during a short period, but finally it's more important how you can maintain that infrastructure, that nature-based solution at long term. And in that case, it's really basic the empowerment of communities in that area, no? Because the governments and the public administrations sometimes change, and then that project is not really important, and then it's a key issue to establish a bottom-up project with a good community empowerment.
Thank you, Jordi. Carlos, do you want to add anything else to what Luz and Jordi? Yeah. Good.
I think one thing that I have realized, well, I have noticed in different countries that I had the opportunity to visit, is that many technologies are copied from Europe and the receiving countries, and just for they want the latest technology available. And sometimes this is not the best solution for the receiving country, right? Just a case. I'm in Vietnam, Hanoi. Well, actually, is how long there was this super advanced wastewater treatment system constructed, and it was donated by a European country, financed by the European Union. And when I got there, it was incredible. But this is the first time I go into a wastewater treatment system that does not have this characteristic smell of fresh wastewater, right? And instead, they were producing fish, they were producing furniture, they were producing different things. But this city did not have a sewer system, so no water came to the treatment plant. So sometimes we have to, before this technology is established, we have to look at the situation of the receiving, technology or country that is going to receive the technology. In the case here was financed by a European Union, but in many cases, the countries themselves that are receiving the technology that they just copy this one because it's the state of the art, that is the best thing in the world. But like I said in my presentation, it's not just taking the technology and putting it there. There are a whole bunch of factors that affect that this technology is going to work. And of course, you have, things that will potentiate the use of this technology, or things that are going to affect it. That's it.
Yeah, Blanca, I don't know. I know that we are running out of time, but yeah, there is another question. I don't know. Is this for Jordi? Do you want to just, we can ask him, and maybe he can be short, and then we can finish. What do you think?
Yes, yeah, being conscious about the time, Jordi, if you can answer in 1 minute, that would be perfect. So the question is why circular economy is more focused on economic goals. Meanwhile, environmental problems are not addressed in detail, like soil and water pollution. Thank you. And thank you, Masar, also for your question.
Yes, most of the time when people talk about circular economy, forget the biological cycle, the part of regeneration, and we cannot achieve a real circular economy if we forget the biological cycle. And then we have to work together and obviously include the environmental issues. In fact, one of the best definition of circular economy is that circular economy is a regenerative economy by design. Then I think that we need to include that part.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jordi. So now, as following the agenda of the day, we are closing the session. I cannot close without saying thank you to all the panelists for your great presentations. We have learned a lot, and I totally agree with the last words about using appropriate technology and maybe not the best available technology, and to make sure that it is appropriate for the context and culture, as you have mentioned before. I would like to mention that this webinar is also associated with a special issue of the Sustainability Journal, MDPI Sustainability Journal. The title of the special issue is Water Security and Resilience. So please, I would like to invite you to go to the webpage of the journal and look at the context of the issue and see if you have also all the attendees, the participants of this webinar, maybe also want to contribute to this special issue, and still there is time for that. So with that, thank you very much to everybody. Thank you very much also to the sponsors and partners of this webinar. And we hope to be able to contribute with more webinars in the future. So please keep an eye on what we do within the scope of this Life Green Adapt project funded by Life program. So thank you very much, and bye for now.
Thank you very much, Blanca. I would like to just quickly thank the chairs and the speakers for their time and interesting contributions to this webinar. Also, thank you to our attendees. I really hope you found this webinar interesting. As a reminder, the recording of the webinar will be made available as soon as possible on the webinar SciForum page. For certificates of attendance, please send us an email, sustainability.webinar@mdpi.com. As Blanca said, there is also a special issue associated with this webinar, the link for which is in the chat and also available through the SciForum page. I would like to wish everyone, wherever you are in the world, have a nice day, morning, evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.